started it last year, but then I kind of left it on hiatus until a few months ago. So yeah, for those unfamiliar, I'm going to be dropping the links in the Panel A main channel so that you can check it out while I'm talking. Yeah, there's the Tumblr link, and for those who are who can't really access Tumblr, I'm also putting another mirror on my website. All right. So yeah, to introduce Children of the Days. Basically, I've been into Kage for quite a while now. I'd say since last year. I know I hopped on the bandwagon a bit late, but it's yeah. It took some time for me to get to used to all the timelines and finally watching MCA. But yeah, here we are. So what appeals to me about Kage Pro, not just about this, it's not just about the story that's very rich. It's also the world that they live in. It's an urban fantasy at its heart, and it features ordinary people with extraordinary powers, and they use those powers creatively. Sometimes it doesn't work out so well for them, but ultimately it's how they live and how they have to move forward and cope with the world. So yeah, given all that, I really did want to play a story to play within the world of Kage Pro, and also to run stories since I'm mostly a game master rather than a player. Um, so before talking about how I made it, I guess something important to establish would be the context. So for those unfamiliar, a tabletop game is essentially an RPG, an RPG video game without the video game part. You roll dice, you say what your characters are doing. Everything can be run with pencils, paper, and dice. But of course, it's very flexible too. You can also run it online. If, for example, like in our context, we're all in different countries and time zones, so we can't exactly meet up in the same place. But yeah, so the basically the base game I used to make Children of the Days is called the Gloaming Diaries. Um, it's very indie. Every time I tell a tabletop person about it, they haven't heard of it. But yeah, I felt it wouldn't be fair to talk about Children of the Days without talking about the inspiration for it. So I'll drop the link in panel A main. So Gloaming Diaries is something I was already familiar with. It was what I was using to run games. But at the same time, I felt that its system would be a perfect fit to make a Kage Pro tabletop RPG. Mostly because Gloaming Diaries is also an urban fantasy. So the basic premise is that um, a human and a fairy tale, so a fairy tale or mythical creature, they merge their souls and live as one being called the Gloamspun, and they sort of just make their way in society. So yeah, I thought that when I was making the Children of the Days project, I really thought, you know what? I feel like gloaming would be a really cool system, especially since it's so light, rules light. You can just make a character pretty in an hour and just start playing. There's not a lot of um, unlike other tabletops, it's not as heavy on numbers and dice rolling. Obviously, it's a matter of personal preference. I'd rather just for me personally, I like um, prioritizing the role playing aspects, and because for me personally, every time there's something that happens and then you have to roll the dice for it, I'd rather go back to the story rather than spending 10 minutes looking up the rules and computing math. So yeah, it's just a personal preference. I'm not hating on and people who like to compute the math. It's also a valid part of the tabletop experience. So yeah, it was the most familiar to me, and it was already an urban fantasy. So I thought, it's you can pretty much mash it with the Kagerou story. Um, I guess the main bulk of it would be the ability sets. So rather than character classes, as in the usual Dungeons and Dragons setup, with like for example, you could be a cleric, a barbarian, a paladin, and that would I guess determine what you can do within the game, what your abilities are. This time, I wanted to follow canon and make the player character's abilities be sourced from the snakes. So in a way, your character class is your snake, and excuse me, what determines your snake, like in canon, is your dying wish. So right before you entered the days, you had a wish that you left unfulfilled, and that the snake that could grant that wish was the one assigned to you. So other than so if you look at the ability list real quick, I wanted to emulate canon, but at the same time, um, I also wanted to expand the power set a bit because I'm really all about using superpowers creatively because essentially that's what abilities are. They're superpowers. And I really love it when people use superpowers in a creative way. Um, Let me think of an example that was uh, really cool. I remember someone I ran a campaign before and someone had really sharp vision. So they said maybe my sharp vision makes me super accurate at throwing stuff and projectiles. So I said, yeah, sure, that sounds a pretty accurate, a pretty appropriate application of that ability. So I said, yeah, all right, yeah, you're super accurate when it comes to throwing things. So yeah. Um in Gloaming Diaries, the abilities are formatted in a way that basically there's a name for ability and then it says what you can do. So it's what you can do, and then sometimes there's an additional mechanic. Sometimes you have to make a roll using a stat. So there are 5 stats. They're pretty straightforward. So there's agility, heart, might, poise, and wits. So I won't go too much into detail. They're very self-explanatory. Um, but yeah, sometimes the additional mechanics would be you have to make a stat roll, or there's limitations. I wanted to talk about that. So, for example, let's see something from the ability set of Snake of Deceiving Eyes. So let's see that. I'm gonna drop the I'm gonna drop it in the main chat. So the ability goes Night Talker. Yes, we love a reference. You can make any object appear as something else around the same size, such as making a watercolor set look like a chocolate bar. You can also change the appearance of text where it is physically written, like a sign or a book, for up to an hour. To affect anything larger than a chalkboard, you must pass a wits test. So let's dissect that a bit. It says what you can do, so it makes it very clear that it's an object that you can make into make appear as another object, but it has to be the same size. You can also change text. So for that inspiration, I got this something I read on the wiki that in the Mikaku City Talkers, the one where they have text messages and then you see how the Dan members have like use their abilities on the messages. So yeah, I thought it would be pretty cool if a deceiving eyes holder would also be able to change text. So um, the way I phrased the abilities was so that they would have a lot of creative uses. So let's go to the Night Talker ability. Um, Essentially, you can use it for a lot of mischief. if you wanted to play a prank on someone, you could change a classroom sign. You could change a boiler room sign to say, "This is classroom B. That's where the text. This is where the test is. The big test." Um, you could put up a poster, like for example, "Free burgers. Just go to this stand," and then people would completely flock to it, and then leave the stand owner completely hapless. So there's a lot of mischief involved in that because I feel like a deceiving ice holder would be pretty mischievous in a sense, just like Kano in Kagepro. But at the same time, I feel like it could also be used to, in for example, in practical situations, like for example, the player characters are being followed by a threat, or they're like Seiru, and they have to get away quickly. So what a deceiving ice character could do is they could go to a crossroads and um they could go to a crossroads and then change the sign so that okay, we turned right, but then I'll say that uh right is left and left is right on the sign, so the threat would be confused and not be able to follow us. So I really wanted to make that creative too. Um, And for my justification of expanding the power sets, aside from it being really cool, is that um, the Dan that we see in canon, they haven't exactly mastered their abilities yet, and it's also pretty established that there's more to their abilities than meets the eye. Um, for example, Kido can't just make things disappear. She can also make memories disappear in a way, but and maybe even erase her own by accident. So there's really a lot of applications and potential for expanding. So I really, when making the abilities while following the Gloaming Diaries format, I really wanted abilities that could enable the creativity on the part of the players. So for example, focusing ice would have a lot of creative applications. I ran a campaign, a test campaign before with some of the people here, and then the plot hook was one of the player characters' cell phone gets stolen by a snatcher. So, but then one of that same player had focusing eyes. So I was like, so they asked, "Oh, can I use since I was able to see the snatcher? Can I use focusing eyes to locate my or since I know what my phone looks like? Can I use focusing eyes to find my phone?" And then I said yes. That's actually what I had in mind. So yeah, it's really supposed to be creative. Um, when I make when I run tabletop games or when I make modules, I really want to leave room for creativity because I feel like that's where the most fun in running tabletops is. For example, in a video game, you have a set move. That's it. You as much as you want to be creative about it, this attack does a certain damage, this jump has a certain range, and that's because of the confines of the computer program. But in tabletop, you can be creative because ultimately the power of storytelling lies with you, the other players, and the dungeon master. Um, Aside from this, I also wanted to keep it simple. The fact that I didn't see an existing Kagepro tabletop in the fandom when I looked, I felt was an indication that a lot of the people in the fandom weren't into tabletop, so I wanted to make it accessible as possible. So if you look at the post, it's really simple. You make your stats, you make your characters a name, pronouns, backstory, pretty simple stuff. You choose a snake and then you can play. Oh yeah, Marina brought up something that excuse me brought up something that I also wanted to share. So we had this whole discussion in the server, like, what if the eye powers are combined? So I thought, yeah, that's really cool. So um, basically, when eye powers are combined, that puts up a whole new set of abilities and possibilities, which I find really interesting, especially when players combine powers. Whenever I watch a superhero movie and then they combine powers, I'm yes, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. So yeah, I put some samples in the module, but then I have a lot more prepared. But then I didn't want to overwhelm the people reading it, and I also wanted to leave room for their creativity. So I put the three examples that I really like the most. So the first example would be deceiving eyes and favoring eyes. So once a scene, you can plant up to an hour's worth of fake memories in another person's mind. So, for example, you stole a candy bar at a store. You can make fake memories that you bought it. Yeah, and my rationale for this was that deceiving eyes makes the illusion, and favoring eyes projects it into the person's head. So yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward how it works. Opening and awakening. Once a session, you can reconstitute your body at any place you project your soul, allowing you to teleport up to a mile away. So opening eyes, I hope I'm not getting them mixed up. Opening eyes, so Ene, she can project her soul, and awakening eyes, Konha, uh, is Marina put up a good point. Um, it's not just having like a super strong body because that was Haruka's wish and it was very specific. But we felt at its core, awakening eyes was matter manipulation. So we see that Kono has essentially indestructible. We also see when Azami in MCA uses the awakening eyes ability to heal her body, it's essentially matter manipulation. So my rationale for that was um, essentially your body gets dissolved, you project your soul, and then your body reconstitutes itself. So I was like, that's essentially teleportation. Last would be locking and retaining. So you can temporarily slow down time, allowing you to react to things that happen in an instant. For this one, I wanted um, essentially Mary's locking eyes can not just well, there it's quote unquote watered down since she's just the the granddaughter of Azami. But then I really felt that it was more than just turning people into stone, it was freezing them. So in essence it was stopping time. So it's stopping things. So I really wanted um the locking eyes ability set to be time themed and then combined with retaining eyes, which allows you to remember stuff. So I thought, what if you stop time and you remembered the things you saw if what if you stopped or slowed down time and you remember the things you saw within that instant and reacted uh you reacted appropriately. I felt that that was a really good application of the locking and retaining combo. um what else? Aside from that, the way I run my project is that okay, it's finished, it can technically stand on its own, but then it's always open to expansion. So I've been setting up another system. It's called Faith Accelerated. Really cool, but there's a bit of a learning curve. Basically, um, it's you can invoke certain aspects of your character. So they're called aspects. So basically, if your character is, for example, the aspect is really good at watercolor. You can say when your character is making a watercolor painting, you can say, "Oh well, I invoke my really good aspect, my really good at watercolor painting aspect." So that gives me a +2 on the roll, which is when using Fate Accelerated is a big bonus. Yeah, I'm just reading the chat right now. Clearing and concealing eyes to delete your search history. Oh my god. Um, Oh yeah, and Marina brings it up that drawing could, in theory, um, be drawing could you can apply drawing to yourself and use it to be more attentive to your surroundings since drawing is at manipulating attention. So aside from that, my plans, aside from maybe tinkering with the mechanics a bit, if people are craving a bit more complexity, would be adding combat. So Fate has a combat system that I feel like could be plugged into Gloaming Diaries. I actually have my homebrew system that's a mashup of Gloaming and Fate. Yeah, you can check it out if you want. I can give you the link. But basically, a combat scenario or like an action scenario would be really cool to see. Um, because I've always wanted to run a camping where it's like, oh, you're two teams and you both have eye abilities, and then they're all different, and then how do you like defeat each other? It's like paintball. It's like paintball. It's like there's two teams facing off against each other. So maybe like the one with locking eyes can temporarily immobilize the players, or deceiving eyes could pretend to be the teammate, but then they're actually the opponent. So I felt like that would be really, really interesting to run. So that's why I'm planning and conceptualizing a combat or action expansion. I felt like that would be really cool. So yeah, oh wow, I talked so fast. I have 40 minutes left, so I guess I can open the floor for questions about the process or about the game itself. What if you want to make your own game? What if you want to run it? Yeah, go ahead. So yeah, I'm gonna track the chat for now. Oh, for questions, please format them as question emoji answer question. All right, thank you, Danny. Oh, sorry if I mispronounce your username. Uh, Arger asked what inspired named after a thistle from favoring eyes. Oh, that's let me check it. I felt favoring eyes when I was really struggling with favoring eyes because like okay, you can project memories. What else can you do? So I thought um well, I thought there was another discussion in the Kagerou server that uh Azami was unwittingly using favoring eyes when talking to a plant. So I thought, okay, well, plants are pretty simple. Like they don't even have a brain. So what if every time you project a thought to them, they kind of do what you say, or like they respond to it by obeying. So I thought, okay, maybe a cool way to expand favoring eyes' um, ability set would be plant manipulation, and it kind of fits with the theme of favoring eyes of like being very nurturing and caring because plants are stereotypically associated with healer or druid characters. So I thought it would be really cool. If you're asking what why I named after Thistle, it's because Azami's name, if I'm not mistaken, comes from a thistle. So I thought it would be a nice it would be a nice callback to that scene in the manga. Sorry. Is there a PDF or source book for Children of the Days available? Um, a PDF. I feel like that could be doable. Uh, Although I can't promise like it's gonna be like amazingly laid out or have illustrations. But yeah, I can always make a PDF and send it. Yeah. Question: will you be DMing this anytime soon? I mean, hopefully, if people are interested and we can work out a schedule. I mean, I'm pretty free for the next few weeks, so why not? That'd be really interesting. I'd love to run more campaigns with this module. Oh, and obviously, the reason I posted this module was because I wanted to encourage other people to get into tabletop. So yeah, go run with your ideas. Go for it. I am not. I don't want to be the one. I don't want to be a dictator and say, "Oh, I'm the only one who can run this module." No, go ahead. By all means, go for it. Um, So Saturnid asks, if you introduced combat, what kind of enemies would you envision for this setting? That's an interesting question. Um, well, to be honest, if we look to MCA, the only villains are or enemies would be Seiru as Kuroha and the his minions. So we see those guys who staffing the building who for some reason Kenjiro could afford on a teacher's salary. Really weird. And nobody questioned it. It's like, oh, why is the school teacher suddenly hiring so much security? and people were like, "Oh, he's building a prison." That's totally normal. But anyway, that's a tangent. Oh yeah, the terrorists too. I forgot about that. That would be also be really interesting. Um, yeah, like just go in canon. Like, if you guys were caught in the same incident as the Dan in episode one or two of MCA, how would you handle it? Because we see the solution. Momo. It's mostly Momo and Mary working together. But then I was thinking, how could you do it? Like, would the Awakening Eyes just clobber the terrorists? Um, would Favoring Eyes telepathically communicate with the police? So it's really interesting. What else? What would be cool? Oh, and another thing I wanted to put. In case somebody wanted to have a player character with clearing eyes, that is not necessarily antagonistic. I put an ability set for clearing eyes too. So yeah, it's mostly being a know-it-all, just like in canon. But then um, I also did want something that um, he could, for example, Seiru knows how the other snakes work. So I was thinking a clearing eyes character in a tabletop would be able to modify the other abilities. So yeah, it would also encourage collaboration. What else? So yeah. Oh wait, another question popped up. How have you handled time loops in this module, or have you avoided that for a simplicity reason? Um. Okay. The thing is, I wasn't the first. It was a one shot I ran with the system, and basically what happened is it was just a one scenario. Snatcher takes the cell phone, and I guess that's a lot of potential. I can't really say I thought about the time loops other than as part of the backstory for why the player characters get the snakes. But yeah, that'd be really interesting. I feel like the time loops and the days would be really cool to explore. So yeah, if you have any ideas on that, feel free to make a suggestion. I'd love to brainstorm on that. All right. So Celine asks, when I tried adapting Kagerou into a tabletop campaign, the aspect I found most difficult to adapt was the time loops. Are you gonna tackle how to build a time looping timeline campaign, or are you more interested in letting people build their own conflict or villain? Um, well, yeah, like I said in the previous answer, I never really considered it the time loop or even the days aspect. Maybe I could make a combining eyes power set that lets you temporarily control the days. That would be really cool. Um, so yeah, it's very open. Maybe I'll conceptualize a looping timeline campaign so I could if so I could share it with other people. But then, what I'm wary of and then just pull out the rug under them and say, "Oops, timeline reset. Nothing matters." I wouldn't want the players to feel like that. So maybe that's why I avoided having a time loop story. But then, by all means, if you have an idea and you want to run it, go for it. Just let what all I ask is that you let me know how it goes. Because truth be told, I've never had use of somebody running a campaign with something I made before, so that would be really interesting for me to hear on my end. Um, just reverse everyone's death. Yeah, putting in an impossible fight can be a lot easier said than done. That's true. Yeah, I acknowledge it. Being a DM is really hard. But really fun, rewarding. It's just a lot of effort you need to put in. It will require so many notes. Oh yeah, definitely. Although if I could share a technique, it's that I keep an whenever I plan a session, I start with the hook. So like, what's happening? What could happen? What plot lines could the players um pursue? But then that's it. I don't plan anything specific other than the start because I want it to be spontaneous. I want it to be I want to give the players breathing room because I don't like railroading campaigns where the players do stuff and then you move the plot forward based on what you want. It's a big thing that I really try to avoid personally as a DM because it's just not my it doesn't vibe with me. Oh, and also another thing with how I DM things is that I really try to avoid math as much as possible. So that's why if you look at the ability sets in Children of the Days, they don't actually have numbers. So, for example, in Night Talker, I say to affect anything larger than a chalkboard, which doesn't have measurements, but everyone knows how big a chalkboard is. So I thought, yeah, it's pretty intuitive. It's pretty, you can vibe with it. Yeah. All right. So Long of Hyrule asks, side note, what other TTRPGs are you interested in or are playing? Um, well, like I said, I'm studying Gloaming Diaries. I'm studying the Fate Accelerated System, and I'm also running a suite. So it's a series of campaigns set in my OC verse, which is Swellbloom Kids. So if you want the link, I don't think I'm allowed to promote it here with the link. But yeah, if you want the link, you can just DM me. So yeah, it's very interesting. I've been rotted about it for like 2 years. So yeah, that's what I'm playing, or rather, I'm running right now. Um, feels like never met 7, the aftermath. Um, with this setting, I'm reading the message from Chris. So they said also with this setting, it'd be very interesting if we could explore what would happen if the holder of the queen snake died. Oh, that's very interesting. That's a plot. That's a very interesting plot point. Who knows what could happen? So would the queen snake go berserk? Would it run wild to find another host? Would it pass on to the next? Who would be the whoever's the most powerful? What if it went to a relative or a descendant of the queen snakeholder? So, um, yeah, it'd be. So Marina asks, what is your opinion regarding the Mekakushi Dan D&D kits? Um, I really think they're interesting. D&D isn't for me. I'm not a math person, unfortunately. But yeah, they're really interesting. One comment I had about them, as I said, was that they're very combat oriented. And another thing I think I need to establish about D&D is that sometimes it's only conducive to a very specific type of story, which is a fantasy setting, like sword and sorcerer setting. So for that, that's why, aside from the numbers, which kind of turned me off, that's why I chose Gloaming Diaries as the base for Children of the Days. Have you thought about the physical setting for this module? This has been another question popping up in my group. Oh yeah, the module is a little less rooted because I wanted to keep it flexible. So I think the only requirement would be that it's set in an urban area. But then, even then, it's flexible. It could be a town, it could be the wilderness. Um, it can even be another time period because that's why I didn't make uh, opening eyes tech specific because then, I mean, aside from the first ability, I didn't want it to be limited to when computers exist. But I'm such a fan of running things during historical eras. Like I actually ran a campaign set in 1880s Philippines. So in case you didn't know, I'm Filipino. Um, and yeah, I really wanted to make it flexible. So when you said it's a little less rooted, yeah, that is intentional. Aside from to answer the first part of your question, have you thought about the physical setting? Um, I think a map of the city you're running it in would be cool, or at least a list of locations that the players could interact with, how far apart they are from each other. I feel like that's something you could consider when planning the physical location. Like for example, if they're at school, how far is the school from their house if they want to go to their house? Is it a 5 minute walk? Do they have to take a train? But you have to consider that. When will this game real? Oh, sorry, I don't understand. Release? Um, I mean, I consider it release. There's a Tumblr post for it. Um, yeah, I'd say it's finished, but with room to grow. So it's, I guess, in progress. Will you do a casting call for VAs? I'm not. Oh wow, that's a big. Like, are you asking me if I'm gonna run something in the same type as Roll20? Uh, Probably not anytime soon. I don't think I have the brain cells to mobilize that amount of resources and manpower. But then, um, yeah, if you want to do that, I say go run your own thing. Um, all right. Joy asks, would you be okay with people making fan-made maps for others to play, or do you have any plans to make a map in the future? I say go for it. I love fan-made, quote-unquote fan-made stuff. I don't consider this work to be something that has fans, but yeah, sure, a map would be cool. My request would just be that you share it so I could also see it. As for a map, I'll have to see if I decide to make a campaign set in somewhere where the physical location is important. Because in the campaign I ran, it mostly just took place at the mall and the surrounding alleys, so that was very small in scale. Would you consider hosting one round or so next year? Yeah, sure. I think that'd be better. This is like a last minute. I applied last minute, so I wasn't able to prepare. But yeah, if given the time and people are interested, yeah, I'd love to run a game. That would be really fun. Thinking I want to make a map. Oh yes, definitely. Maps are so cool. I wish I had the brain cells to make maps. The people are interested. Oh, thank you. Um, I'm banging on my door. Thank you, Celine. Am I comfortable with people making further homebrew of this system and adding to it? Yeah, sure. That would be interesting. Although I guess my only request or I guess requirement would be that credit be made not just to me, but also the Gloaming Diaries uh, base which I used. So yeah, I already linked the appropriate links. So yeah, as long as its credit is properly given, I'm all for a homebrew. That would be really interesting. Like I'm not super well versed in tabletop that much, I'd say. I mean, there's so much to explore. So yeah, if you wanted to make a homebrew with another system, why not? Thank you. Thank you for the offer. I usually run like 5E. Yeah, makes sense, makes sense. Um, yeah, I feel like this would be expanded and mashed in, or hacked into other systems. Do you have to buy the Gloaming Diaries as a base to be able to play this? No. The Tumblr post, it stands on its own. I just linked Gloaming Diaries as a sort of credit to the maker as a of the base of the game, as well as if you want further mechanics to put in. Yes, I recommend buying the Gloaming Diaries, but it is not a requirement to play Children of the Days. It would be fun to run something with normal people as some of the enemies. Oh, definitely. Although I've also considered, for example, if you want a more fantasy-esque setting, um, for example, animals with eye powers, that'd be really cool. Or like the days making glitches in reality, so enemies come out. That would be really cool to explore because Kagerou has a really interesting potential. I also wanted to like, what if you had an older player character? Because all the player characters in Kagerou are teens and kids. So I was like, okay, what if somebody died of old age? That'd be really cool. How would they come back? I actually had this uh draft villain for one of my campaigns. He's a drawing eyes ability holder. He's a corrupt politician that keeps using drawing eyes so that he keeps getting reelected. So yeah, that would be really cool for me for to explore. I hope I can run it sometime. Thank you, thank you. Um, what else? Or like, for example, because Seto's a nice guy. He's such a nice guy. But then if somebody was stealing eyes was such a gossip, oh my goodness, that would be so much. That would have so much chaos. Like like Dolores from Encanto. That would be such fun. Like you could literally hear thoughts, and usually people with secrets think about those secrets all the time. And then yeah, you know, could get the tea using stealing eyes. A villainous favoring eyes would be fun. Oh yeah, I think someone in the Kagerou server mentioned like villainous applications of favoring eyes. Like a villain with favoring eyes could like emotion bomb you, like oh you want emotion? Yeah, I'll make you feel fear, anger. Yeah, that would be really interesting. Oh, I think I did that in. Oh yeah, I forgot. Um, yeah, I forgot that, Celine. Yeah, you did do that. Basically, the cell phone snatcher was trying to get away, and then Celine's character, which had favoring eyes, was like, yeah, I'll just throw some negative emotions at you to overwhelm you. Oh, I'm so sorry, I dropped my water jug. Um, yeah, trauma dump in the worst way possible. Oh my god, that's so valid. Yeah, that's like really really cool. Favoring eyes could be used um for villainous purposes. What else? Locking eyes would be really interesting as a villain because how can you fight someone when you can't move, right? That would be so interesting. Or, like I said, drawing eyes, a corrupt politician could keep getting reelected and essentially have a lot of wealth and power at their disposal. Um, Awakening eyes would be a really hard villain because they're essentially indestructible, so you'd have to find a way to get around that. Or opening eyes, someone who could hack into your system, control technology, or essentially always be able to escape into a nearby computer so you couldn't technically defeat them. Frankly, the canon universe is lucky those children only use their abilities the way that they do. Honestly, yeah, it's good that these people are good guys because these abilities have a lot of potential to be used for evil or for antagonistic purposes. Concealing eyes could um one of the one of the things I conceptualized was a villain with concealing eyes that could blind you literally, like make everything invisible or make anything on on top of on in front of you invisible or like your own eyes invisible. That'd be awful. Or like wipe your memory every 5 minutes. That'd be awful and very interesting. Or Seth even says he's glad the red-eyed terrorist doesn't have ceiling eyes. And it could take over the stock market. Yeah, that's so true. So true. Insider trading. Isn't Awakening Ice being the antagonist like part of the problem in the time loops? That Seiru can no sell anything once the body steals. Yes, that's true. Although if I had to make a scenario, well, they do it in canon, locking eyes. Maybe also if you fudge it a bit, you can transfer Seiru's soul to something else. I feel like that would be a combo ability of opening and favoring. Eye owners got found out and used by like the government. Oh yeah, super interesting. That would be super interesting too. That would be something cool to explore. Mhm. Thank you. Oh yeah, I did. I think somebody did mention that in another discussion. Someone with both stealing and deceiving eyes. Like we were talking about eye ability combos. Someone with both stealing and deceiving would be the perfect spy because they could hear thoughts, they could gather information, and they could essentially disguise as anyone. Oh, thank you for the heart. Oh, thank you, thank you. And the engine is actually unique. Amazing. I'm like, wouldn't they be curious? Yeah, definitely. That'd be interesting. Especially if you're, for example, you want to run maybe an edgier setting than in the future or more corrupt setting. Yeah, that'd be really cool. The government captures eye ability holders and experiments on them. So yeah, we have around 14 minutes left, so I'll answer your questions a bit more, and then yeah, we'll close this panel. Thank you so much for attending. But yeah, let's leave some room for some more questions. What was your favorite part about making the TTRPG? Um, hmm. Well, I guess it's essentially a love letter to uh Kagepro canon. That yeah, I love this story so much. I want to add to it. I want to play inside the world. So yeah, it was really fun making the abilities. Like, how can I make abilities that are inspired by canon, but at the same time, for example, a player character with opening eyes wouldn't just be another Ene. So yeah, I wanted to strike a balance between sticking to canon, but at the same time allowing for creativity. So I felt that was fun, trying to strike a balance. An opening eyes artist that travels through paintings and drawings. Oh, they're really interesting. That like I guess Doctor Facility's shadow in The Princess and the Frog, except they're drawing. What if one of the players randomly are assigned with Snake of Clearing Eyes? Um, well, the thing is, I let the players decide who their snake is. But yeah, a Snake of Clearing Eyes. I'll send the ability set, but basically it's like in canon. You know a lot of stuff, and you can also change the abilities of an existing player. But they are. I didn't mean it for them to be a Snake of Clearing Eyes player to also be a protagonist. But yeah, if you want to have an antagonist like Seiru with Clearing Eyes, but then maybe a different flavor, that'd also be really cool. With the description of opening eyes in the module, Haruka could have wished for those instead. Let me. I forgot what that wrote. Jump and not. Oh well, when I was writing the descriptions, I really had each the respective eye ability holders in mind, but also I wanted to leave it open a bit. Like, yeah, your wish doesn't have to exactly line up with Kido's to get a concealing eyes snake. So I really left it open or flexible. Because all my players were unfamiliar with the canon, I just told them the list of possible wishes and didn't let them know their abilities until they were chosen, which luckily worked for our group. Oh, interesting. Oh wait, so are you've run a Kage Pro campaign before? That's really interesting. Or like a one shot? Oh, let me ask. Let me answer a question. Oh, we did character creation. Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Let me know how it goes. Can you play with people who don't know Kage Pro? I don't really have anyone to play with. Um, all right. Thank you, Dan, for recording. So let me just wrap this up. I expansion abilities. Pretty much. I don't know. I've run out of ideas, but if you have ideas, let me know. That'd be really cool. Um, um, can you play with people who don't know Kagerou? Ideally, yes, because I laid out the lore, a simplified version of the lore in the module, so it should be a good starting point already without knowing Kage Pro canon. Oh yeah, it's already Danny. Thank you. Where can we find updates on this? On Tumblr. Yes, I'll be making update posts on the regular, but if you want like a version that continually updates, I can send it again. Basically, it's on my personal website. But yes, every time I make a major update, if you guys want updates, I'll post about it every time the one on the website is updated. Next use panel, maybe. Ooh, oh my. Can you be a snake yourself? Have it as a second character or companion? I didn't have that in mind when I was making it, but yeah, sure, that'd be really interesting. A snake yourself, like a Konoha situation. Have it as a second character companion. Yeah, maybe like the snake is sentient, like say, like with Yaki's deal, and Shintaro can consult with her, or like manifesting it like as a familiar. That'd be really cool. Where is your personal website link? Oh, I linked it in the channel below this panel A main. So it's the Greek's website. I go by Greek in other places. So yeah, a bit of context. Can talk to you through the, yeah. I had that in mind too. That would be really cool. Like you can ask your snake and then the dungeon master. Well, the dungeon master controls all NPCs. So yeah, that would be under the jurisdiction of the dungeon master. Or I don't know, a pair of players could be the snake and the human. Um, be having disagreement with your host and that sounds so fun. Mm, that's cool. That's cool. In essence, what is noted down so far are just some suggestions. Um, well, this is what you're given, basically. These are the limitations, but as I said, I left them open, and yeah, I feel like negotiation is a part of the tabletop experience. So yeah, go ahead. It's up to the discretion of the DM. Um, in my other campaigns, what I do is, um, yeah, okay, here are your powers, but at the same time, once a session, you could do something not in your ability set, as long as it follows the theme of your powers. So like, if a player with time powers wants to do something time related but not in their ability set, I'll allow it, but it's one session. All right, let me check. It's been a while. Um, all right, highlight. Um, clearing ice, gentrification. I don't know the context of that. Mario noises. See, what does this mean? Um, please stop asking. She thinks she will not. She has the empathy of a brick. And then Celine said, "Let me take favoring eyes, the most empathetic of the snakes, and apply it to someone who's dumb as bricks." I'm sorry, that's all I have. Oh yes, I remember Jade. No, no, favoring eyes with someone with not much emotional depth, I guess. All right, thank you so much, Danny. You can keep on going though if you like. Yes, although maybe in 5 minutes I'll hop off and then oh gosh, if you How do we keep in touch with the interested people? I guess if you'd like, um, you can DM me for the link. I'll enable DMs from this. Let me see. How do I do that?